So I think growing up here in the late 80s, early 90s, and not just in Medina, but in Western New York total, there was always a feeling like we missed the great time that everyone had, that we weren't really in the heyday of the community. So we always were kind of like the underdogs, like industrialization kind of came and went. We were left with a lot of abandoned factories. Fisher Price closed. So my family owned a business. We saw the rise and the fall of that. So I think it was just like, we have this great foundation here. We could either let it go, or you can be part of the solution and be present. Because if nobody's here, it's not going to change. So that was really important for me to make my foundation here.
We moved out here in '95, and it was a lot different then. It was, there weren't a lot of businesses. There were, it was kind of sad. But we came out here. My husband opened the veterinary clinic. I worked there for a while and got to know the community, and we decided, to put our, basically put our money where our mouths are, and bought a building up on Main Street, and so decided to fix that up. No clue what we were going to put in it, but we wanted to fix something up. And I think that's what people like, is that you're not there just to talk.
I remember maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was a few vacant buildings and things were looking kind of deteriorated, and the old woe is me, the village is going downhill. But for some reason, there's been a resurgence. And to put your finger on what the resurgence is, it's really hard to do other than pride of the village.
But during the past 10 years, though, it's really coming back to life, and that's a wonderful thing to see.
Well, my businesses have always been challenging to run here, but I've still chosen to do them. Most of what I've done is in the industry of medical electronics, and now medical advanced clinical guidance software. And so the core of that are developers, engineers, and then associated with that key sellers. My sellers I would position around the country. My engineers needed to be here, and when we were doing medical electronic devices, the manufacturing was all here. One of the things that I was able to get in good quality and in decent quantities were hardworking manufacturing people.
There was always a thread of pride in both this community and in a lot of Rust Belt communities that is now starting to kind of blossom into social and economic redevelopment, cultural developments, and people really taking pride in their community, and both taking pride in the assets that a town like this has.
I would say there's a lot of untapped potential here. You have a community that's very involved, that likes to help out with different events.
The biggest change that I've noticed coming back to Medina would be the younger crowd kind of taking Medina to like the next level of more progressive cities that if you've been out of Medina, that you've noticed. So there's a lot more entrepreneurship.
We have businesses almost every day calling up the EDA, asking questions about Medina. What buildings are available for factories? What can we do here? What can we do there? What utilities do you have for us? So there is a great interest in not only Medina, but the surrounding areas.
Businesses that come to Medina, retail in particular, they want to be in downtown Medina. They don't want to be up on Maple Ridge Road or Route 63 or 31, where a lot of the box stores are. They want to be in Medina, downtown, because there's a special feel about that. And as you can see, over the years, we've grown in terms of the number of businesses. And I'm just amazed at the number of businesses. There are over 90 businesses in the business district. And we're talking about a town that's about 6,100 people. It's amazing, really. And
I definitely think there's a lot of people moving back to Medina, younger people specifically. They, I think, see the appeal of living in a small community, in a small town like this, and then they also are interested in doing more, starting small businesses and occupying the storefronts of Medina. Medina has a really unique downtown.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it in a lot of bigger cities, but it's also happening like on a smaller scale with a town like Medina, that a lot of these old buildings that were used in the 1800s into the early 1900s that had been sitting vacant for years were so cheap that people could buy them really cheaply and can turn them into, they're not factories anymore, they're not opera houses anymore, they're going to be apartments and restaurants and bars. So I think that is what we've really seen in the last 3 to 5 years, and there's certainly more of those buildings that could be bought and changed into more entertainment, more restaurants, more, just so you're not having to drive outside of Medina 30, 40 minutes to a city. It's all right in your town.
I think that the future for Medina kind of stems from its history. So it was a rural community, it has the canal, and especially agriculture now is more food related, and the growing trends, new restaurants, are all kind of originating off of knowing where your food's coming from. So that plays a huge role in kind of the social scene of Medina.
Well, being a technology business guy, we can always use more engineers, more software developers, more technically inclined people.
The community's grown as a community. I think people have really, really smart people have, kind of put a lot of effort into growing this community to make it a better place to live and to work, and businesses. I think there's a lot more, or maybe me being older, I know more of them, and friends that work in the area, but there's a lot more local business and local, big business that has, a lot of careers and opportunities here.
I think there's a greater pride in appreciation for what the town does have to offer and what the future holds for the town.
Well, as the one local investor in new early stage technology companies, former Medinians that are living in other parts of the country, I would love to have them think of coming back here, and at least there's one decent sized investor that could help them with early stage companies if that's what they're about.
A lot of community oriented, goal driven people, perhaps just this building right here, to save this building here. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Is it going to take a while? Yeah, it's going to take a while. Is it going to take some money? Yeah, it's going to take some money, but there's people there that are driven to do this, again, to make Medina better, to show that this village does matter.